right? Our current times, there's so much competition. Everybody's looking for that tentpole moment because we've reflected the Caribbean way of enjoying baseball, which is, I'm paying attention to what's going on in the game, but I'm really making a party out here. The definition of a fan, right, comes from the word fanatical. You can't expect rational decisions of a fan. I never think I know enough.
So being curious, playing sports, and always learning. That's it.
And busting your ass.
Welcome to Gameplan, a podcast where you're going to be meeting athletes, business owners, entrepreneurs, and industry leaders. I'm Kaio Philipe, and I'm going to be your host. What is your game plan?
On this week's episode, Tiago Pinto.
We are clearly not in Miami today. We are in Orlando at the Inter&Co Stadium, and I have a guest from Miami, right? Tiago Pinto, a big executive in the sports, branding, marketing. Was just running the marketing for the Marlins. Iconic team, iconic franchise. Has worked for Nike, for Gatorade, and is here now in the beautiful Orlando, Florida. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks
Good?
for having me. Yeah, it's great. Thanks for the kind words.
Of course. Let's talk about that. That's really interesting because you're talking about something that is much into the hype. You had just the Formula One movie, you have Netflix rights, you have all this, buzz about players and so on, or racers, right? You don't get the same buzz with the MLB.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least not in social media or in the press or in the media. There is certainly more buzz or hype around Formula One or even soccer, right, with the World Cup happening in the US next year, than MLB. And at the same time, you have MLB filling arenas with over 80,000 people, which is unthinkable on any sports to put 80,000 people to watch a game.
Mm-hmm.
What is missing? You think the MLB could be more cool?
I think it's a sign of times, right? Our current times, there's so much competition. Everybody's looking for that tentpole moment, right? That whatever you do, it's special. I think the challenge for baseball is that every team plays 81 home games and 81 away games. So it's a lot of games. How do you make the 81 special? So I think as a league, what they're trying to do is creating the tentpoles of the tentpoles. So league managed games like the All-Star game with the home run derby. Now it's the coolest All-Star game there is amongst all leagues, right? There's not even the Pro Bowl anymore. Now it's something else. NBA is looking for a solution for their All-Star game, and MLB found theirs. Then they have the Summer Classic. They have now they're gonna play in a racetrack. They play
every 80,000 people,
80,000 people. Then they go to a small venue, but super cool with the Field of Dreams in Iowa. So I think the league is looking for those tentpole moments and then bringing the teams along to say, well, now in your market, you take care of it. When I was at the Marlins, we had that same mentality of how do we make this special? Because if you let someone choose who want to go to 81 times anything, you don't go 81 times to the movies a year, right? You don't go to 81 soccer games. No. So you need to make those moments special. Well, we had an example at the Marlins when we held the World Baseball Classic, tentpole events, 5 or 6 days, best teams in baseball in Miami. It's coming back to Miami in 2026. It was packed. The same Miami that doesn't fill a stadium for the Marlins, but it's special. It's a tentpole moment. There's attention. It's more than a game. That's what people are buying to you. And I think you look at all sports, just what Formula One did recently. I've been going to Formula One races for 40 years, right? It's dramatically different. Even a soccer game, the World Cup, is dramatically different. I think there's a lot of, even FIFA tried during the Club World Cup this recent summer. Instead of all the 11 players coming at once, now it's player by player. There's more PA announcers. There's a little bit more, right, that you want to make that a special event rather than just a game.
Make it more like entertainment, right? That's what FIFA is trying.
Exactly.
Using influencers and social media, TikTok, and so on. But you mentioned something about 81 games, home games, right?
Yeah.
How do you feel 81 games? What is the magic to bring people to 81 games? Because it's a lot.
It is a lot, yes.
How do you make this special for people?
I think at the Marlins, what the plan was when I was there was like, let's map them out. Can't make 81 special games. So what we did is let's look at the weekends that you have more tailwind. You know what? People have a little bit more time. So people that might want to go to a game, they're still invited, but you got to make it special. So you create theme nights. You provide giveaways. You have post-game concerts, pre-game concerts, dance on the field after the game. So I think baseball, because of the volume of games and all the teams do that, and you have to look at that and provide entertainment options. Because the hardcore, there are a few, right, that can go 81 games. But most of the people are not that hardcore. So, a lot of people go 40 games, maybe 20 games. But you need to provide opportunities for the people that are the casual fan. That's the biggest volume of fans. And in Miami, it's not only casual, but it's the amount of offering.
Right.
People can go to the beach, they can go to the movies, they can go to Formula One, they can go watch the Heat, the Panthers, the Dolphins, the Marathon, the 3-on-3 basketball. There's all these things, right? And every market has its options. So you need to create that. Why? The rationale is not let me get hardcore baseball fans. Yes, you need to take care of them, providing a great experience. But the biggest effort, how do I get people that have choices in their minds because they don't need it? The definition of a fan, right, comes from the word fanatical. You can't expect rational decisions of a fan. So the fan will come to 81 games or a large amount of games. The difficulty is the people that in their minds, they have options. Yeah, I could go to baseball, but I could go out and play a game of soccer. I could go to the beach. I could go to the movies. I could check out the new Michelin-starred restaurant. Right? They have options in their mind. So you want to get into their mind and say, no, you don't have an option because this is the event to be. And, in a lot of cities, there's a lot of consumers that want to go to the event that everybody's talking about. So it's kind of that, good cycle of you put an event, it looks good, people will come. And other people will only come if more people come.
Right.
So that's what you need to make that day special.
It's a domino effect, right?
It's a good domino effect.
Have you had somebody going to 80 games in a season? Do you know? Do you put a crown on that person?
And they're celebrated at the last game of the season.
What did you do? Like, what was the celebration?
Oh, people are invited to the field. The front office comes to greet them, and
that's they go probably more than many places.
Yes.
More than I go to the grocery store for sure.
Probably.
You also made Miami is very unique, right? As a city, they say that Miami is not part of the U.S. Miami is not Latin America. Miami is just Miami. It's not part of Florida. Miami is something special. And I remember that we're going to one of the games there in the arena, however it's called now, the Marlins Arena, let's call it like that. There was like chickens on the field, and that to me was a big Only-in-Dade moment. What was that like? What is that about? Why put chickens in an arena in Miami?
They're called roosters.
Roosters, yeah.
We call the Great Miami Rooster Race. So the thing is, Lone Depot Park is in the middle of Little Havana. Little Havana, as a traditional Cuban neighborhood, used to Cuban families, traditional as you raise chickens, to
roosters.
Yes, roosters. There's historically two reasons. One, traditionally families would raise chickens for dinner, and others would raise roosters for cockfighting, which has never been is not allowed, but at the time that's what people did. Right. And with time, those chickens or roosters, they were going to be there. They were just roaming around the streets. So when working with the league, we identified that a new trend that, again, reasons for people to come. People are really coming to the ballpark and saying, well, in Washington, they have the President's Race, which is a mascot race. They have the Hoagie Race in Pittsburgh. Why don't we create a mascot race in Miami? Our mascot is a fish. It's the marlin, right? But we said to be of Miami, to be part of the culture and tell our community that we really understand what happens in the city, instead of a fish, let's get the roosters and create the Great Miami Rooster Race. So we created. Each rooster has a personality. Each personality reflects a different part of our community. Pepito, the name says it's a Cuban kid, right? You have Charlie, you have Bobby, Then we added Mia because a lot of women are coming to us. Hey, what about a female representative? Mia has rings like this big. Every Miami girl that looks at that say, I understand why you put those big rings on. And you look at the girl, probably a lot of them have big earrings. And then we also added the menace, which comes every other game, which is a peacock. Why a peacock? People would say, well, in my neighborhood, there's a lot of peacocks roaming around, and historical reasons. I think we're the only city in the world, maybe, that you have peacocks roaming around town.
Yep.
And people don't like them because they do weird things. So in our race, also the peacocks behave badly. So it's part of the culture. It's about being connected to the fans. Hey, we understand what goes on in our community, right? We are one. We are in sync. I think that's the reflex of it. And people find, interesting moments. Like
It's brilliant. In my opinion, it's brilliant. It's an all-in-date moment, and it's brilliant. It's just brilliant. The way you explain and the characters, the diversity.
Yes.
Right.
It's all there.
Needed, right? It's all there. But at the same time, and I have the perception that baseball in Miami has seen better days, right? It has been, maybe you can say that is with the soccer effect or with Azaleia, the Heat growing a lot because the Heat is such an international brand, right? That attracts tourists from everywhere. At the same time, I feel that, and I might be wrong, but I feel that in the past, baseball was more prominent in Miami, or at least in South Florida. Do you think that's the case, or that's just a perception?
Well, I think there's different ways of looking at the question, right? When you look at the Marlins since its foundation, it's one of the most successful franchises in South Florida, right? It has won 2 national titles in 33 seasons. The Panthers recently won their second as well. Mm-hmm. So at least on par with the Panthers. In the same time, the Heat has won 3. So one more than the Marlins. The Dolphins have won none. Inter Miami have won none. So you can look in a way and say reasonably there in terms of competitiveness.
Right.
Right.
In terms of sports winning.
In terms of sports. In terms of attendance, has had its ups and downs. I remember having a conversation with a colleague from the league at the time when I joined the Marlins. And, I said, wow, I'm super excited. I'm going to work for the Marlins, give back to the city, a city that I adopted, and do something that is relevant here. And the person said, well, pity you're in a market a small baseball market. I took that note. A year later, we were hosting the World Baseball Classic. This colleague of mine from the league was with me in the stadium. And there's more than 37,000 people. It was 37.5 the capacity, plus a lot of standing room only tickets that we sold for that final between the U.S. and Japan. Mm-hmm. An amazing moment with Shohei Ohtani facing Mike Trout and all that. One of the most viewed baseball games in the history of television. Yep. And I'm looking at her saying, really, this is not a baseball market. It is. But it is a market so specific that has its ways of embracing a sport, right? A tentpole moment, a special moment, something like that. Mm-hmm. People responded. It was several nights that we had baseball during that week for the World Baseball Classic. Everything packed. Yep. Then we, a year later at the Marlins, we hosted the Caribbean Series. Packed as well. And it was definitely not Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani caliber players. It was different. It's the Caribbean Series. Right. It's another type of baseball, a different level of players. It was still packed. Then we a year later we host a special game between the 2 most popular Venezuelan teams. The Desafío de Gigantes, a tournament that the Marlins created and was hosting, and it was packed. So it's different ways of seeing that question and seeing different ways. I think the Miami market needs special.
Right.
When you do special, regardless of whatever you do, right? Recently I went to the Formula One movie. The session I went was a special session. It was before everything else and had this and this and that.
Was there any racers there or no?
They didn't have racers.
They flew the racers in New York.
Yes, Qatar. Yes. We didn't have racers. I think it was a missed opportunity because there are a lot of retired racers living in Miami. We could have. I see other cities do it, but just because it was the first session in the U.S.
Right.
It was held in Miami, a special screening. All these families came dressed up and all that. I think that's a market needs special.
Yeah, it tells a lot about Miami. It says a lot about the state of Miami now being the capital of the world for entertainment. I think beating LA in a way, people want to be in Miami. Is
Right.
is the hype now? It's Miami for sure. About baseball and the fan base, you think like on demographics is you mentioned the Caribbean, the big market, Dominican Republic, right? Puerto Rico, Venezuela. What is the demographics? What is the fan base of US is the number one? Then you have Japanese or Asians. What is the breakdown?
Everyone. I think a baseball with 81 games, right? It has to be reflective of your community.
Right.
I think being in South Florida, the more south you go, excluding the Keys, it's more Hispanic, right? Miami is a 75% Hispanic city, up to 90% of people are Spanish speakers or at least understand.
Right.
Then you go to Broward County, a little bit more balanced, and then West Palm a little less. So you got to understand your community and see where it is. But I would say baseball as a sport is a sport for everyone. One thing that enables baseball to do that is the price point. It's one of the most affordable sports there are because, again, it's 81 games.
How much is the average price for a?
Depending on, there's different clubs around
$20.
America, but you will find tickets depending on the game, time of the game, because we have like Thursdays, 12 o'clock games the Marlins has, right? Then you need to do, a $5 or $10 ticket, right? The Marlins have also a dollar ticket on Mondays for kids. So if you really want to go to the game, there's options, right? You want to spend $1,000, there is a ticket for you to spend. But I think baseball has a very, very wide range of pricing that allows everybody in. So you kind of really have to cast a very open net and understand different days are going to be more focused in the community. The Marlins has a lot of success on Saturdays with the different communities, Bahamian Saturday, Dominican Saturday, so on and so forth. So you go, some days you lean heavier more into one or the other. Some theme nights, they become broader, like the Marlins do a lot of character themes.
Right.
SpongeBob. There's no demographic about...
no, I asked that,
right?
and it's funny you mentioned this, but I asked that because in California, in LA, I went to a Dodgers game last year at the Dodgers Stadium, and it was around 2 p.m. the game, and there was 70,000, 60,000 people, and it was like 100 degrees, and it was 2 p.m. And I was wondering, I was like, how that's so different, right? If you do that in Florida, it's hard to get that amount of people. And the majority of people, I wouldn't say majority, but I would say 40% was Asian, I would say, because there is a big community, of course, in the West Coast, and around 30% Hispanic, and then probably Mexicans, right? And then the 30% would be like everyone else. It was something that caught my attention. And I think here is more like Hispanic, right? Like Caribbean, like you said. So you don't get many Asians.
We definitely, it reflects our community.
Right.
There's not
like a direct flight from Tokyo.
Exactly. Even though the Miami's working on it already.
They should, by the way. I mean, Miami, Tokyo should be, I think they had in the past. No, they might probably.
I can tell you at the World Baseball Classic, there were several flights, charter flights between Tokyo and Miami, because the way the World Baseball Classic works, one of the quarterfinals is in Tokyo. And then 2 days later, they play the semifinal in Miami. So they had all ready for the team and the fans in case Japan advances. Several. The Marlins works closely with the MIA airport, and we got information. There are several direct charter flights of those big planes flying straight from Tokyo to Miami to follow the team. Beautiful crowd. I've never seen such an excited crowd for baseball like the Japanese. They have their own rituals. Right? Every community has their rituals of enjoying a sporting event, right? We're both Brazilians. We know how passionate we get. People react in different ways.
I think they like baseball more in Japan than in America. Or they're more passionate about baseball there.
I think it's different.
It's like there is something strong, right?
Yes, I think, but I think here as well, I think it's just different rituals. What I think for them is the rituals are very characteristics, and maybe as part of their culture, everybody kind of follows that. So it's easy to see, right? The Caribbeans have a different way. The Marlins, during my time there, we would call the Marlins show Marlins Baseball, right? And we would write in Spanish to reflect that, because we reflected the Caribbean way of enjoying baseball, which is, I'm paying attention to what's going on in the game, but I'm really making a party out here. I'm drinking, I'm dancing. I really care about the music. People dress up to go to the games. right? The Caribbean way of enjoying the game of baseball is very similar to our way of enjoying the game of football, right? I think the only difference in football, because of the nature of the game, nothing stops for 45 minutes. You're looking at the field. In baseball, with the innings, you pay more attention when your team's at bat, when your team is defending. You kind of go for the next drink. So I think the Caribbeans have a way that, at least personally, I think reflects a lot of the way South Florida is overall, right?
Agreed.
And even people that are not from the Caribbean enjoy that type of show because, when you go to Miami, that's where you expect. Like when you go to Vegas, you expect something else. When you go to the south of Spain, you expect something else, even though you're not from that culture.
Right.
So I think that type of enjoyment is what people are looking for when they go to Miami.
And when people come, I bet you received a lot of people in Miami, right? From players to multiple different cultures, like a melting pot of people coming to the city and asking you what to do, like where.
A lot.
So what kind of recommendation would you give to a Japanese player coming to Miami? Like what would be their CEO calls your office and say, hey, we have this big Japanese player going for the All-Stars, and what should they do in Miami? Or what do they do, right, when they go there?
Yeah, I think it's a very good question. Especially my last season at the Marlins, we had an opportunity working with the baseball front office. We sat down and we're discussing some things that we needed to accomplish for the marketing team and the marketing work that was going to be put out by the marketing of the Marlins. And I said, we would be great if we engage with the players and understand. They said, well, why don't you guys go talk to them,
right,
and explain what you guys need from them. And then I had an advice from a gentleman from the Atlanta Braves that was going through, had gone through a similar process in the past. And this gentleman, Adam, a genius marketing guy in marketing overall, but marketing for baseball, best in class, right? Mm-hmm. So Adam was telling me this: when you go to talk to a baseball player, because the way the contracts are organized and all that, you gotta tell them what you need from them. But here's my advice to you: ask, what can you do for them? To me, that was the transformation in the conversation, because this is what the marketing team needs from you players. And then when we opened the door, so many great suggestions. And some of the suggestions were exactly, hey, take me to places around Miami. I want to understand the culture. Not only Miami, but I would say Miami, Broward, and the different parts of South Florida. Take me there. Help me experience it. I'm here. We had in the past a player when I was at the Marlins, and he was there as well, Jake Berger. Him and the wife came to live in South Florida and said, we want to experience it. They were great partners. We ended up creating a moment. He was playing very well at the time that I was there. We even created a moment around Burger King, and because his name, and became a sponsorable moment for him and for the Marlins. Every time we won, we worked with Burger King. People would get a mini Whopper for free on the stores. So once you open that door and you have this two-way dialogue, okay, this is what we need from you, but open the door so they could tell, hey, help me experience South Florida. Ended up creating a moment that will end, and that's the third part of what Adam said. Tell them what you need, ask them what they need, and create revenue-generating moments, both for the club and for the players.
I'm sure.
It was a killer, and the relationship was transformed. By the time I left the Marlins, we were in a very different situation than when I got there in terms of how to work with players.
No, you did very well, for sure. I think Miami should be very thankful. Everything you've done there, I think is tremendous, and it speaks by itself, right? By the attendance, by the brand. But Tiago, you didn't come from inside MLB, right? You worked for MLB, you run the marketing at the Marlins, you built campaigns at Nike, at Gatorade. You're an immigrant. You've been in America for, living as an immigrant 10 years or so?
40 years. I've lived here as a child.
40 years?
I lived in LA. That's my love for baseball started with Fernando Valenzuela pitching for the Dodgers in the 80s. It was the Fernando Mania, first, talking about an immigrant from Mexico, really first big Mexican to really make it in LA in the 80s. So it was more than baseball, which I would realize later in life. So the last 40 years of my whole life has been back and forth.
So you've been 40 years here as an immigrant. You made it a lot of things, right? A lot of accomplishments. So when you wake up in the morning, like every day, every morning, what is your game plan now?
I'd like to say, sometimes I speak at colleges and talk to students, and I'd say it like that. I had one job in life right after college. I'm from the south of Brazil, as you know, a good, big company there. You might know Grupo Gerdau is a big steel making company. And I was in finance.
Wow.
That was the worst year of my professional life. After a year, I got out of that, and then I got into marketing and marketing of sports or sports marketing, depending on which side that you were in. And then, I like to think that I never had a job again because I've always been doing what I love. So every morning, the game plan is, keep working in sports, different experiences. I had the privilege to work in some very good organizations that allowed me some good exposure and live a few things.
Right.
And as long as I can keep in the industry, keep adding value, because it's a tough industry. It's very competitive. You need every day learn more and keep adding value to the organization you're connected with. And that's the game plan. And, I have exciting plans for the future. And I think, we're just discussing Miami, Central Florida, how much sport there is here, right? There's so much opportunity, but it's a competitive market. And, I think there's a lot of opportunity to keep adding value, and that's my plan.
But tell me one thing. How do you go from a finance banker or finance person? I don't know. You were in accounting, FP&A. What were you doing?
I was in accounts payable in foreign currency.
How do you go from accounts payable to become a CMO of a major baseball franchise? How does that happen?
I think there's one thing that never changed. I'm a very curious person, right? I like to understand things. My daughter, who's going to film school now, we watch a lot of movies at home, right? That's the thing that she likes. And then she goes mad because in the middle of the movie, I'm watching something, and suddenly I go to Wikipedia to understand more. Who's that actor? So I'm a curious person. So I think that what that allowed me is really to go deep and understand who are we selling to, or who are we talking to. So that curiosity around understanding the fan or the consumer or the customer has led me to be able to progress in my career and have the opportunities that I had. Because once you understand that, and I think that's why I'm comfortable in sports, because I practice sports every day. And I'm either running, I'm playing soccer, I played basketball, I raced go-karts, I did everything. So I think the fact that I really like sports and I'm able to understand that and relate to that fan, all the business strategies come from knowing you're a consumer.
Right.
So I think that has been the thing that has not changed, and I don't plan to change. I'm still a curious person. I never think I know enough.
So being curious, playing sports, and always learning. That's it.
And busting your ass, right? Sorry for the cursing, but nothing comes easy, right? You got to really work hard at it.
When you were young, you were in Brazil, right? You mentioned you grew up in the southern of Brazil. You lived also in LA, and you had you were a fan of this baseball Mexican player in LA. Was there anybody else that you were you would look and think, I want to be like that person? That's that's my idol.
Multiple. Like growing up in South Brazil, the first player that I really admired was a player called Falcão. Used to play soccer for my hometown team. Went to play in Italy. That was like my first. Then you move to LA, and then going other places. Then you start working in the industry. There's not only then the athlete. You start looking at people that are doing amazing things, and also understanding that things move on. For example, growing up, to me, I really like Formula One racing. Now it's pretty big. It used to be a joke in my house that, there was a friend of mine that also watched. The joke between our families is it would say we could not turn off our TVs because every household was half the audience in America. Right? That was the joke at my house.
Because nobody was watching, right?
Probably were the only two people watching. Right?
In the U.S.
Yes, and now everybody watches here in the U.S. Yeah. So I grew up like Bernie Ecclestone. Big deal. He made that sport into a gentleman's club, into a global powerhouse. He sold it 10 years ago. Look what Liberty Media just did. So even when you think, wow, look at this guy built this amazing business, there's someone that is more curious because they were curious about how do you take beyond the fan. Right. And Liberty Media took it to the next level. And I'm sure at Liberty Media, or if they ever sell the business, there can someone and say, you know what, I'm taking it to the even further level.
But you've been working for over 20 years now, right? And you work for Nike, for Gatorade. What did you learn in those two corporations that you bring to your day-by-day or to your game plan?
I think my first job in sports, I worked for a Brazilian company. You probably know Olímpicos, a local sports brand. It was very entrepreneurial. I became the brand manager. I started working with them. I was 20.
They're from the south, no? They're the Azaleia family.
Azaleia, yes. Yeah. The Azaleia family at the time when I worked there. Then they sold to a different family from the south, the Grandeni family. So it's all within the shoe industry. I started working with them. I was like 23, 24.
Okay.
And, I was within the team. So I started very early. And then we kind of figured out. I became the brand manager. I was 27, 28. And a little bit of training. I came to study in the U.S. for a while, just to get new tools. But, I'm 20-something. I'm managing the brand, traditional women's shoe company.
Mm-hmm.
That's where they knew everything about that, right? They didn't need a Tiago or anyone else to tell them what to do. They knew. But in sports, they were kind of new. They were bringing back the brand, but first time as a true sports brand.
They were associating with sports. So
then we started developing shoes specific for volleyball, which was the main sport that the Olympics got involved. We went to 2 Olympics, several volleyball world championships. So we suddenly are exposed and start selling around the world. So to me, it was very entrepreneurial. I had at 28 to understand how to manage a brand that was going global. From that, I joined Nike, which to me, that was my MBA in the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
While I was at Olímpicos, here's the world to discover. But you got to figure out on your own. You go to Nike, a tremendous brand, right? With tremendously creative and
they already figured out, right?
They had already figured out. Here's how you go about it. So I think to me, I've been having these experiences. And then I joined Gatorade, which is a bunch of former Nike people that had gone to Gatorade and relaunched it. So when I was kind of figured out on your own, here is you get exposed to me, the best brand in sports. Right, at the time. I know recently Nike has had its challenges, but at the time was amazing. Here is, in the game plan, they even had a name, was the concept map. I even learned that how long-term planning worked on the brand, how to integrate brand, product, sales, everything integrated. My first job in Portland at the WHQ at Nike I was a brand initiatives director for football in the Americas. Brand initiative was the worst job there was in Nike because you didn't do anything. You were the responsible for bringing everybody together. But it was a genius move by my boss at the time, Caroline Whaley, to put me in that job because you have to talk to a lot of people. Because Nike is the phenomenon that is, because everything is coordinated. Once you decide that on a certain date you're going to launch the new boot by a player in stores around the world, it happens around the world on same day, not a day before, not a day after. Because the advertising campaign goes up, the social media post is up, the players start playing on the field, everything on the same day around the world. There's an art to it, right? And it was a concept map was the game plan at the time.
Yep.
Then I go to Gatorade, which is, let's get this and tell a huge corporation like PepsiCo, this is how you treat a sports brand, right? PepsiCo is huge, does great with consumer products. But they don't know how to manage a sports brand. They had bought Gatorade. For a while, there, had ups and downs, and then this comes from group from Nike, led by this great leader, Sarah O'Hagan. She was the president of brand at the time, and brought all these people from Nike. My good friend Andrea Fairchild, myself, and others. Okay, let's get that game plan. Let's apply it a drink, and tremendous results that we had at the time. I was able to work in the 2014 World Cup. I don't know if you're living in Brazil at the time, that we did 23 customized formulas for the 23 Brazilian players on the national team.
Right.
And we did all these crazy stuff because, again, it's having a game plan. That just, to me, was what stuck with me. And when I came to sports, the Marlins, that's how what allowed me to look at 81 games and not be overwhelmed. Just plan ahead.
I mean, you mentioned something about Nike not being at the top of the league anymore, and that's that's numbers that they report every quarter, and Gatorade the same. People are not drinking Gatorade the same as they used to, just because they have a lot of options now, a lot of innovation in the area. What resonates to me the most is that people are not buying shoes, Nike shoes anymore. They're not buying as they were buying, like the whole fever in the past. What do you think is happening with these legacy brands and the new generations?
I think I'll go back to your first question, right? What drives me is being curious. I think you gotta have your finger on the pulse of the newer consumers. You gotta understand what this new generation is about.
Mm-hmm.
But I think most importantly, what I don't see that many brands doing is, again, being relevant. You have to understand. You got to be curious. You got to be out there. You got to be living with those people. Like I told you, I practice sports every day. So, I feel in my feet, especially now that I'm getting older. I really feel what the good running shoe is or not, right? So don't try to fool me. I feel every day. So if you're really curious about your consumer, you really understand what makes them tick. So therefore, the marketing work that you need to deliver is pretty obvious because you're feeling the pain. Once you become too distant, either because of size or because your internal processes are not right, or because you're worried about something else, once you lose that idea that I gotta live with my consumer, to me the biggest thing, and I had good conversations with people in the insights groups. Once you need an insights group, it means that you're
things
doomed.
are
right. I need the insights group to tell me you're doomed.
I agree.
Right, to not say a different word.
I agree.
You really need. There's no insights group. You as a marketer, you need to be leading that, and then transferring that into your product.
You create the demand, right? You create the demand.
Create the demands. People. It's not for me. I read in the Steve Jobs biography that Steve Jobs would say, and people credit this to a lot of phrases to him. Right? People don't know what they don't know. Right? It's a common phrase, but that he had that in mind. That Apple, you can't go to insights and people ask what they want. A leading brand tells people what they need. You don't wait until they tell you, because if they tell you, you're already too late.
It's late. Yeah, I agree. You think, not mentioning Nike specifically, but the whole agenda that was happening in 2020 and what is changing now, 2025, you have American Eagle, putting a blonde girl again into billboards. Do you think brands become too woke?
I don't think so.
And they are transiting now because of the whole political.
I would say it's hard for me to.
As a marketer, right? Because we live that daily, right? So like not going too much political here, but like in the sense of advertising.
I think you're missing, again, if you don't understand what makes your fan tick, and you're not bold enough to lead your fan,
right,
you end up a refugee of whatever political or social movement.
Yeah.
If you are afraid of telling the world who you are, then you become what the world wants you to be. And I think that's the end for brands.
Agreed.
So I think you really need to, hey, this is what we stand for. A lot of people will like, some people might not.
And that's fine.
But that's fine. Once you try to be everything for everyone, and then you're careful about this and that, then you become a nothing for everyone. Yeah. And I think that's what the legacy brands might be feeding right now, is if you try to be everything for everyone, you're not anyone. And then you know what? Those same people that you're afraid of offending will pick someone else, because the consumers are very fast, right, to identify the phony, and they're just as fast to identify the authentic. Why now they're more and more small brands? Because they recognize these brands are the authentic ones. These are the ones that I'm going to go for.
Right.
And if you investigate, not coincidentally, those smaller brands, they stand for something. And that's what people want.
They get acquired eventually, and they become part of big corporations. And so on.
And then there's a lot of business opportunities out there.
No, it's interesting, because when you think about Disney, Liquid Death, Disney... you say whatever you want, right? Or people say whatever they want, but they still keep the family values. They do their movies about families, or, somebody becoming something in life when they had they lost their father or their mother, like an orphan. And you have Liquid Death, which is crazy marketing. Imagine going to a venture capital and saying, I need to raise cash, and I'm going to create a brand. The name is going to be Liquid Death, and it's going to be a water in a can. This is crazy, but that's unique. That's authentic, right? That's what people believe, like you said, into brands. But let's go to a speed round. You can only pick one.
Okay.
No context, no explanation, just one, and no looking back.
For a Brazilian, that's difficult. We talk too much.
No, come on. Ohtani or Derek Jeter?
Ohtani.
Dominican power or Japanese precision?
Dominican flair all the way.
10,000 deeply loyal Miami fans or 100,000 casuals at the Dodger?
Give me the 100,000 at the Dodgers. I have to say Dodgers because, childhood memories.
Right. Would you go for a Heritage Night with Bad Bunny or T.S. What Live?
I'll skip that. I'm not a music guy.
Okay. Pura Vida or Carrot Express?
Pura vida.
Pura Vida is great, I agree. It's expensive. It's a brand.
It is very expensive.
It's crazy what they're doing. I mean,
but the food is good.
Paying $26 in acai bowl, it keeps me wondering why every time I go there. But I leave the place think, okay, that was good. Right? It's not bad.
Maybe try Oakberry.
Okay, of course. From good friends, actually. I love them. Yeah, they're great. Shout out to Oakberry. Nike or Adidas?
Currently, Adidas.
Tiago, you've done a lot in the branding world, in the sports arena, in the baseball arena, and I'm very curious to see your next steps while you rebuild yourself. What's going to come next, what's going to be your next game plan. So appreciate your time. Hope to see you around, and we can talk more. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Game Plan is brought to you by Inter. Nearly 40 million clients around the Americas. You want to know more? Download Inter right now. Stay tuned for more.